Hi, everybody. Welcome to Gamut Management's Valentine's Day panel, where we are talking about something super spicy and exciting, and that's sex and disability. And on today's panel, we have amazing people that are going to talk about what it's like for sex and disability. And our moderator today is a dear friend and an expert. Actually, she refers to herself as a sexpert in the disability community, Dr. Danielle Sheypuk. Danielle, can you just welcome yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are?
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. And so Mindy's right. I do talk a lot about sex and disability and dating. So I am happy to share this info and hear everybody's stories. And so I'm a clinical psychologist by trade, and I have a private practice where I see people with disabilities and without. And a lot of my clients with disabilities seek me out for dating and advice on sex and intimacy, etc. And I also talk very publicly about dating, sex, and disability in order to get rid of some of those stigmas that are really not cool anymore in 2021. So
agreed. And I actually think you were ever cool, but you are certainly making them super cool. And you yourself has a disability.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. Yes. Yes. I have spinal muscular atrophy, and I use a motorized wheelchair. And it's congenital, so since birth.
Great. And I think that also, leans in very clearly to what makes you truly a sexpert on this topic. So I can't wait to hear your feedback and all the comments and thoughts. And I'm sure I can take some pearls myself on what you're going to talk about. That's why I put on my raciest top to talk about today's discussion. So yes, of course, Blas, I love it. And you guys even have some drinks to go with it.
Absolutely.
We're really going to get involved tonight. So let's move over now to the panel and let's meet who we are going to get intimate with this evening. Alex, I'm going to start with you, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Stacy. I'm known as Wheelchair Rapunzel on Instagram, and I'm very passionate about disability justice, talking about disabled bodies, and just empowering everyone to be confident in their body. I have spinal muscular atrophy type 2, like Danielle. Is that all? I'm 27. I'm single.
And we're going to get more. We're going to get into that. And should anybody be watching and want to get to know Alex, you'll let us know. Next, we have Julian and Sky.
Hi, I'm Julian Gavino. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm 25 and I live in Philadelphia. I am a disabled and transgender activist. And I do that through modeling, writing, social media, and marketing. And I talk a lot about sex and disabilities on my personal Instagram. And this is my partner, Sky.
Hi, I'm Sky. I'm 22. I'm just now getting more involved in the sex education space, actually. I just started a sex ed Instagram, and it's at, queer.sexhibition. So I'm really excited about getting that started, and I'm excited that I'll be able to talk about some of that stuff tonight.
It is exciting. My dear friend, Chris.
My name is Chris Ruden, and I was with a limb difference. And when I was little, I had most of the bones in my hands and wrists amputated. I now am a professional speaker. I do not speak on sex, so this is a little newer thing for me. I speak on overcoming.
You can add it to the resume now.
I will add this to my website tonight. I speak on overcoming adversity and diversity inclusion, especially as it relates to disease and disability. I'm also type 1 diabetic, and that can be just as much of a problem in terms of physiologically for all walks of life, especially sex. So I'm excited to talk about this subject today.
And Kristina and Blas.
Hi, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. I'm Kristina. I'm 34 years old.
In 2017, I was in a boating accident where I lost my complete right arm. I apologize for my dog barking, but I am a clinical nurse supervisor, a cardiology nurse supervisor. I am a public speaker and disability advocate.
And she's hot.
She is. I mean, look at her. We're all looking at her.
So I'm Blas. I'm her husband. I don't know. I've never really spoken about sex, not even in like personal, like with friends or anything. I'm considered pretty much a prude, but I love people, and I think everybody should find love, and everybody should just feel love, no matter how we look, smell, taste, whatever. I mean, everybody deserves love, and sex is a part of love. So
Absolutely.
Let's see how much we get out of him.
Your dog wants to be involved, so if you want to grab him or her so that they can feel involved, that's totally fine too. We're an all-inclusive panel here, so please. And actually, I'm Mindy Scheier. I am the founder and CEO of both Gamut Management and Runway of Dreams. My pronouns are she, her, which thank you to my friends Julian and Sky. I'm getting better with that, but I'm very, very excited to include that into my vernacular. And I am just so thrilled to be able to open up discussions like this to our population, to be able to shine a light on something that is part of who we are as humans, and that's sex, love, and happiness. So with that, let's get started. Chris, I'm going to start with you. So obviously the pandemic probably has really changed the face of dating as we know it. So what would you say are some obstacles that you've encountered while dating during the pandemic? Or what have been the perks?
So a lot of my business and my life has kind of started, evolved, and grown from social media. So growing up, I hid my disability for 17 years and I was never confident. It wasn't until 2 or 3 years ago, actually, when I first joined Runway of Dreams, that I stopped hiding my disability. So social media and dating has kind of been, I guess, pretty normalized now in today's day and age. So I feel like with COVID, it might have affected the in-person type things, but in terms of online and social, we're now more connected than ever through Zoom and things like that. So I'm not going to say it's a benefit, but I will say people's attention and efforts have turned a lot more to maintain that interaction. And I feel like the dating is still going on, pretty common from what I'm seeing.
I love that. And actually, I'm going to throw you an extra question in there because I'm curious, when you are Zooming, like, or doing streaming like this, and I can't see your other arm. You show it? Do you acknowledge it? How does that work into, let's say, a first conversation?
So I think true inclusion is not leading with it, but living it normally. So if it comes into conversation, great. If it doesn't, also great. It becomes so passive that that's inclusion to me. So I used to be so afraid in the dating world of telling people I had a disability. I would hide it. I would, all this stuff. I was like, well, if they see it, maybe they won't accept me immediately. But then if they wouldn't accept me immediately, why would I want them to not accept me later? Exactly. Why am I tricking someone into not liking something about me? That's not the kind of person. So now I'm unapologetically me. I am who I am. I am not my disability, but my disability is a part of who I am. And if you don't accept me, thank you so much for not wasting my time.
Absolutely. And I think you said that so beautifully. And really, is there, able-bodied people could say the same thing. Maybe somebody I was meeting with like red hair, or, I think that is normalizing it. So beautiful how you say it.
I think that real quick though, people like dare to be different. No, it's very easy to be different because we're all different. Dare to embrace your difference. That's it. And that's what I do.
And you're doing it well, my friend. Yes, very, very well. Alex, how about you? Have you experienced in the pandemic any, defining differences of dating, having to do it virtually, etc.?
I wanted to comment first on Chris. I really it's so interesting to me because what he said about, hiding his disability and now just later in life learning to kind of have that unapologetic attitude towards his disability. I just find it interesting to compare to myself because my disability, right, is very visible. And so I can never hide my disability at all. So I've always just like been like, all right, here it is. I am disabled AF, and this is it. And so whenever I'm on dating apps, I have my picture full body always because I just want to get that out of the way. Like, you're either, you know what I'm saying? It just takes away some of the awkwardness that comes with having that conversation and having to deal with all the attitudes people have about disability and visible disabilities. So I haven't done much dating in the pandemic per se. I'm pretty isolated. I don't really leave my apartment too much, but of course I'm out there flirting and doing the things.
I think that is such a perfect perspective, and so interesting how you both, view it very much the same way. Danielle, what are your thoughts about what that is?
Well, Alexa, it's really funny. I'm glad to see you because actually your unapologetic perspective, sometimes I talk about it when I'm lecturing because your SMA booty awareness, social media thing about how people don't realize, you could chime in that if you use a wheelchair, sometimes you have a really great booty, and people with SMA have good ones. So you really bring attention to that. And it's, I talk about you sometimes.
No, that's awesome. And people like expect me to not like my body because I have SMA. And I'm like, honey, like, I'm packing over here. Like, I have a lot going on and I want to show it off. And I've never had that shame about my body. And everyone asks me how I got to be confident. And of course, I feel like it ebbs and flows with confidence. Like, some days you're more confident and some days you're not. But I just have this view of like radical acceptance. Like, this is my body. I cannot change it. I don't want to change it. And I have a nice booty. So it's like,
good for you.
Yeah. And it's good to hear your perspective too, Chris, because it's a big, Mindy, you're touching on, so the big thing to come out of online dating during the pandemic is people's ability to pass. So that's kind of what you're referring to when you talk about, like, Chris, what do you do? Because you can totally pass. No one would know you have a disability. So it is a thing that people are learning to navigate now. Like, okay, so now it's different. When do I tell someone? When don't I? When, it's a whole host of different questions. But both people, you guys are essentially talking about just kicking ableism out the door, because it's what ableism is, right? Like, if you're thinking, oh, well, I'm getting used to this body and now I'm not embarrassed anymore, or I don't apologize. But like, says who? That's ableism, that, your body's not as good, quote unquote, but says who? That's the majority, kind of like the framework in our society that, so if you're not close to able, then it's different and you have to, try and do something. But really, nothing's right or wrong. And so moving away from that is confidence. It's kicking ableism out the door. And yeah, if you look at it in that light, it gives you a whole sense of, it does help with confidence and gives you a sense of freedom, because it's like, oh yeah, well, being able is not the end all be all.
Absolutely. Agreed. Kristina, the loss of your arm in the boating accident happened while you were married to this handsome man wearing a fabulous shirt. Can you talk about, because I think this would be really interesting and helpful to our viewers, how that affected your sex life? Did it affect how you felt in terms of being sexy? Can you expand upon that?
I think I felt like I adapted really quickly after the accident. I would probably say there was about a 6-month period that I dealt with pain and just adjustment, putting on a bra for the first time, for instance, having to wear a front closure bra, just finding, just in general, clothes and feeling sexy. And even I remember the first time that we did have sex after the accident, I think I was more nervous about it than I think he was. For a very short time, I kind of felt like, well, how does one be sexy like this, And until I fully embraced who I was, I was kind of like, okay, this is going to be me for the rest of my life. I'm going to rock it. I wear bikinis. I wear high heels all the time. I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to do this. So it was a shift of adjustment. And, I am married, but I also had to be comfortable in my own skin too before I was able to even get to that sexiness feeling ever. And now nothing's changed. It's the same. Great, but I'm just saying, like, I was so afraid to be different, but we've had our friends say, well, how is it? And it's sex, I mean, it's sex, just like anything else.
Stop talking.
And by the way, let's also identify that you were in a bikini in the New York Post. Yes. So I think that truly defines sexy. So, and Blas, what's your perspective on it?
So I kind of knew right away that, I needed to give her time to feel like herself. I, for 1 minute, I was actually more attracted to her because of her drive. She was right away dedicated to being herself again. And just, I knew, like, dude, don't fuck this up. Like, this girl is beautiful. She's going to be great. Like, just because she's a little different now or she's not the same she was when you met her, you're going to lose on something, just because she lost an arm? Like, that's not a major thing, I mean, anything that would have happened, like, I'm attracted to more than just what she looks like. I mean, I'm lucky that she is absolutely gorgeous. And, the fact that the accident happened in October, for New Year's, we went down in Miami, and she's like walking around Miami Beach, probably the most stereotypical place on the entire planet to feel like anything. And she's walking around in a bathing suit, like fresh stitches, just out there and looking absolutely amazing. And that drive is what kind of, makes me more attracted to her. And just to touch on something you guys said earlier, when I went to Runway of Dreams, I learned something about the disabled, right? I don't want to say you guys, right? But the disabled community, you guys go out there every day with your imperfections and everything out there for the world to see. And us abled people could hide it all, right? But we're all walking around hiding something. And to just overcome it and just kind of, like, Chris, I can't even applaud you enough to say that you hit it and now you're just like, you know what, this is me. I think we all need to do that a little bit and just embrace who we are and just kind of love ourselves. And then until we do, nobody's going to love us. So.
Because sometimes the stuff that we're hiding.
Yeah, I'm sure you have a lot to add to that.
Yeah, because sometimes the stuff that we're hiding on the inside is way bigger than any physical disability.
Exactly.
So you're like spot on with that one. But, and also it's true because able body doesn't equal great sex either.
Yeah.
There's like no correlation. I mean, you could have the worst sex and be the most able of all able bodies. So it makes sense how it's still amazing with you guys. It's amazing before and after, still amazing no matter what.
And I mean, in general, husband and wife have a personal connection, but being that we went through this together and individually, had our own story, I was living through it and he had to hold on to my pain as well as his own pain. So I think that connection to being intimate is also what makes it even better.
Yeah. Not to put you guys on the spot, but do you have like one tip that you could share with people that has made it easier, like post your accident, like made it easier in the bedroom?
Like in what sense? Like what? I don't really understand the question. Because our sex life is exactly the same it was before the accident, so it's not like we have a special,
Yeah. Oh.
you know, it's just
Yeah.
the same.
Like no, I think I mean, position wise, it's the same. You know, we act the same in the bedroom. We get creative, just like anybody, and just like anything else you adapt to. You know, whether it's working out in the gym, whether it's school, you know, you adapt and you're like, okay, this works. This I like this. This feels good. Or, you know, if I do get a little, you know, more conservative, I'll be more like on the bed, on top of my arm, and you know, like just what feels comfortable for me in that moment.
So I guess the tip is know your partner and communicate, and know when she's comfortable and when it's okay for certain times and certain things. And if she's just not feeling in the mood, or she's just not feeling sexy, it's my job to know when to reassure her that she's sexy, and also to give her space and not be like, oh, well, you're so hot, so I can feel good. But I just kind of have to let her feel it, because if she's just not in the mood and she's not feeling sexy, there's nothing that I can do or say that's going to change her. It's her body. It's the way she feels.
Agreed. I think Sky and Julian, it looks like you guys want to weigh in on that.
Sure. Which part?
Oh, I'm sorry. It looked like that you were like eager to weigh in on maybe something in the bedroom, but we are going to get to you guys and the bedroom. One thing I do want to go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, no, I just had my hand over the mute in case. Yeah.
Well, feel free, everybody. If you have an urge to weigh in on a topic, please do. But I think there's something, and Danielle definitely underscore this, that of the panelists that we've heard from so far, I mean, I think a connecting piece is feeling comfortable in your own skin. And I think that is absolutely something that, as humans, able-bodied or not, is a probably an important piece of the recipe of good sex.
Yeah, totally. And you guys hit the nail on the head, because the other biggie, huge takeaway is the communication part. Like, that's one of the main issues with things not working out, is bad communication between partners. And sometimes you think you're communicating well, and you'll say like, well, she knows that I'm thinking that, but she really doesn't know, or maybe you don't know what she's thinking, and everybody's definition of things is different. You know, so even the definition of sexy is very different. Like, what does that mean to you? Like, what turns you on exactly in the bedroom, or what turns you on? And sometimes people are really afraid to ask it. And this is disability or not. So for all the listeners out there, tune in no matter what, because it's hard to say like, what really like turns you on? Like, what can I do? You know, that's like the big thing I see with my clients, you know, not being able to, or feeling like embarrassed or ashamed, again, disability or not, just because of like sexuality in our culture, like the way sex is spoken, it's very like hush hush, like, oh, and you don't know how to ask, therefore, because it's so not really spoken about.
Is that also with the fear of rejection, right? Like, you're so afraid to express yourself to be rejected. Like, if I never want her to feel like if I'm not in the mood, it's because she's not sexy. I may just be tired, you know, but it's never the fact that I'm not attracted to her. Yeah,
because emotions can get in the way with things like that. You know, maybe you just want to say, hey, I'm really tired, but maybe your emotional state as in that moment is to be directly, to take offense to it. Like, oh no, that's something about me. Is it something I did? Is it something? So sometimes rather than just talk about it, people will just kind of roll over in their own separate ways in the bed, and that's it, and go to bed. So yeah, totally.
Sage advice. Julian and Sky, how has your relationship evolved both sexually and emotionally as you both have grown into the people that you are today? I mean, Julian, I know that you've had, you know, physical ups and downs, emotional ups and downs. How do you guys connect, or how have you learned to connect emotionally and sexually with everything else happening?
Yeah, with our sex life, or with my sex life forever, it's always been complicated because I do have some physical disabilities that remain constant. Like I use a wheelchair and I have a feeding tube, right? Like those remain constant, but some months I could have another procedure because I'm chronically ill. I'm not just physically disabled. So it's always up and down. I could be recovering from something. I could be put on a new medication. And all of this affects like our sex life, or we could even start having sex and I'm like, I feel like I'm going to have a seizure or something like that, or maybe even do. So it's very, we have to communicate, almost have to over communicate about exactly how we're feeling or what's going on. I've also experienced a lot of sexual trauma, like before Sky came into the picture. So emotionally, that's complicated as well. Do you want to talk about how we've made accommodations?
In what sense?
Like
oh yeah. Well, something we talk a lot about is how to have intimacy if you're not necessarily up for sex in terms of like giving each other massages or mutual masturbating or playing like a sexy game. We have a couple like sexy card games. Yeah. But another way in which I think our sex life especially and our relationship as a whole has evolved, in our relationship now, we're able to fully embrace our queer identities more than we have in other relationships. And I think, I mean, you said that I help you feel comfortable in bringing your identity as a disabled person into our relationship. And so I think over time, our relationship and our sex life has just become much more authentic than we've ever experienced with anyone else. So, yeah.
Danielle, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I always have a million thoughts about every single thing that everybody's saying. So I think that's a point too. It's hard to cover all the great points. I mean, just even using the word authentic it's a great word. It goes back to the communication during sex that we just talked about, because pretty much I don't think any of my clients have ever in all the years have said a one night stand has been good for them. Like no matter what the disability is. Why? Because it's hard for people to be authentic. It's hard for people to be confident. It's hard for people to be communicative in that moment. And it's hard to know someone. Oh yeah, that's another thing I was thinking too. Because you guys mentioned that your relationship has grown. You know, you've gotten closer. So I have a couple of clients who have worked with a sex surrogate. I don't know who's familiar with that or in the audience, but a sex surrogate. So you guys have heard of it, Sky and Julian?
Yeah.
Have you guys? Yeah. So they help you with intimacy issues or things you want to work on. So let's just take one example. I have a client who was just in her 20s and just wanted to have some sort of intimate sexual experience. Like she never had any before, and she wanted to have it in a safe environment. So this is someone who's been trained to do this kind of work. And one of the main, so my clients will say, okay, when are we getting to it? When are we, because he has kind of like an agenda. I call it a syllabus. And sometimes the more physical stuff doesn't happen until the second or third meeting. So everyone's always like, come on, that's too long. It's too much talking. And it does seem like that, but some of the exercises are so enlightening. Like as a third party, you always have to work with a psychologist too. I learned so much, and it just like reiterates how hard it is to know someone, you know, or to know anything. It takes a while. So some of the exercises are just learning how to ask for what you want in the bedroom, or say no to what you don't want, and there's one exercise where you look in the mirror at your body, and the sex surrogate does the same with his body, and you mention things that you like or don't like, or I forget exactly the protocol, but there's a lot leading up to the actual physical stuff, and all that stuff leading up to it's super important. So kind of off of what you guys said about your games and other intimate things.
We do a lot of alternative stuff, very similar to what you said. If I'm not able to engage in a full sex activity, or if we start to and I can't.
Yeah, and something that I should have mentioned when we introduced ourselves is I'm Julian's full-time caretaker as well as his partner. So I think having our caretaker dynamic evolve as our relationship, as our sex life has evolved, has helped us even further deepen that connection, because I'm even more in tune with what Julian physically and mentally needs. And I think because we have that aspect of our relationship, he's even more comfortable telling me when he needs something.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Alex, I'm curious, I'm going to bring you into this conversation. How do you manage with a sexual partner and maybe educating them on physically how they have to manage you?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of like that type of sexual experience. I've had a few intimate things happen and they didn't turn out great. And ever since then, I have just been so closed off from anything like that, because I've just I've had bad experiences. So I'm very closed off, very guarded with those types of scenarios, which is really unfortunate. And it's something I'm working on. But I also, like Danielle, I totally have heard so many amazing things about you, and I need to make an appointment because I'm broken. But yeah, I feel like the thought of having to express how to handle me in bed is gonna be a turnoff, and I definitely struggle with that. And I'm like, ew, it's gonna ruin everything, which I know is my internalized ableism, but
yeah, good identification of the issue. That is exactly it.
no, I'm very aware. I'm very self-aware of myself. I'm just I don't do anything to fix it.
Yeah, I've heard it's so people are just burned out with dating. And again, this is across the board, disability or not. It's hard when you've had so many, people will have 20 negative experiences and 2 positive in general. So it's hard to, and then maybe you haven't ever seen anybody with SMA in bed or negotiating in bed in an intimate way. So of course you don't know. I mean, I know you haven't seen anybody because there's no one on TV or in any magazine or anything that has SMA that's being sexual in bed. So how would you know what it looked like? And of course you would think it's not good. And it's not going to be hot. And it's not going to be a turn on. So,
yeah, and there was this time that I was intimate with someone and they were like, you're not going to tell anybody, right? And this is someone that I had a relationship with. And I was just so hurt by that. And I've definitely carried it with me for all these years. And just having him be embarrassed about doing things with the disabled girl when he openly would brag about doing things with other women. And that has that's definitely a big source of this wall I built.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone could, I hope everyone could see how big my eye roll was about that dude you just talked about, because it was really big. I wanted it to be really big. But I'm sure everybody on the panel has this experience, right? Where you've been burned by someone romantically or dating wise, or you felt oh my gosh, I'm never going to get back out there. We've all been burned, right? I mean, So yeah, it's about getting over it, but it's not easy. Like it's easier said than done to say, pick yourself back up and get back out there and you're hot. You could do it. It's more than that. But it's more than that for everyone, if that helps.
Agreed. And actually, Chris, I'm curious. I want to loop you into this also, because prior to a couple years ago, when you had this aha moment of feeling so good about who you are and your arm and whatnot, did it affect your dating life because you were uncomfortable? What has been your experience with that?
So I wouldn't consider myself a conventional guy as society paints guys, so to speak. I didn't like sports. I did cake decorating. I didn't do any sort of sport. I was on the chess club. I played drums. Everything I did was weird. I felt I've always been stigmatized from a disability standpoint, from a sexual standpoint, from a masculine standpoint, to be a guy with muscles and tattoos, but still enjoy the non-beer with my bros type thing. Like, that's just not the way I live my life. Sex is so stigmatized. As a person with a disability, you're already seen as, almost weak. And that's from a society standpoint. So as a guy trying to date girls, especially in college, I was so attached to the idea that I was less than, that it came through in my confidence. It came through in my behaviors. My entire day or date when I was in college was planned around hiding my hand. I would open the door a certain way. I would sit on a certain side. I would do all these things. And it went so far as I felt stigmatized in the disabled community because I wasn't confident enough. Because other people were so confident that I should be confident too. Because the way they lived their life was supposed to be pushed on me. So there was stigma from all around. And it wasn't until I said, fuck this. My confidence is important. And I have to be selfish before I can be selfless. I can't give if I don't have. So when I started to really accept that, that changed. But I remember specifically, I would hide my arm and my hand so well. I had an intimate night with a woman in college, and the next night we all went out, and she was telling everyone, she's like, no, he's not. No, he's not. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, they said you're disabled. And I was like, oh, you didn't know. And she was mind blown. It was really embarrassing for me because it's like, I hid it so well. I went to sleep with a soaking wet glove because we went into the pool, and that's how I hid my disability, And it's that kind of stuff that I remember being so scared. But now, being even around someone who's super comfortable with me and super open to all this stuff sexually, and no stigmas, no nothing like that, it's like, damn, nothing changed about my disability. It's just my perspective, and I didn't allow myself to bullshit myself about my circumstance making me less of a person, about my sexual choices making me less of a guy, about anything making me less of what society is trying to deem me. People are into kink, people are into vanilla sex, people are into non-sexual sex and intimacy, people are into whatever the hell they want to be into. And you have to stop judging people. You have to realize that just because of your circumstance doesn't dictate what you should do. There is no should or shouldn't. And it took me a long time to realize that, but my sex life, my life has been a lot better because of it.
Well said.
Very well said. Danielle, what's your perspective on that from, a male point of view with your male clients?
Yeah. Two things. Well, three things. So first, it's nice to hear that you're unconventional and proud of it. So refreshing. And then the second is, I like the example of the wet glove, how you went to sleep with a soaking wet glove, because it just stands out so much, because when you are comfortable talking about your disability, you don't have to suffer like that. There's so many examples of suffering. I'm thinking of you, Alex, when you hop into bed next week, you might think with some guy or whoever that you meet soon, tomorrow or maybe tonight even, you're going to think oh, well, maybe I can't. I'm going to just look like I'm comfortable here laying in bed, but I'm not really, just because you're trying to make it cool. No big deal. It's okay. But really, it's a lot of work. Chris, maybe you found that it's just so much less work just putting it out there.
I couldn't enjoy sexuality because I was so afraid of people thinking about me a certain way, which I realized the way they think is not my responsibility. One.
Well
said. Two, like, I deserve to enjoy sexuality. I deserve to have a partner who's willing to be so comfortable that it's not even a thought. Not pretending like my disability doesn't exist. Diabetes is a whole nother thing that affects performance and all kinds of stuff. But to be servicing, like I hear the partners you guys hear on this panel, and it's so refreshing to hear that there's more that exists. I've found that too, and it's so nice and so refreshing to just remove that fear and that lack of certainty. You can't be fully sexy or enjoy sex if you don't have certainty in yourself and in the person you're with.
I mean, I feel like that's a drop the mic moment right there. Well said, Chris. So I'm going to actually move to the last question because the questions from the audience is blowing up my feed over here. So I want to definitely give the people their time. But let's get the party started because I'd be curious if you all could please share your wildest dating, makeup, or make out, or sex story. And let's go first with the happy couple, Kristina and Blas.
Can I add one criteria? Also / online dating story.
Oh, fine. Good one. That's so now. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, good one. Thank you.
I have one. We did it in the airport bathroom.
Ooh.
You can see say but just feedback. I know I'm married, but it's very weird because once I realized I started showing confidence in myself, like it's just out in the public without him, I actually got approached by more men after obviously they found out I was married.
Oh yeah?
But before I lost my arm. So I feel like confidence in yourself and your body really shines through, and people, the opposite sex, the same sex, can just see it and can feel it, and that makes that person more approachable. So
I love it. Now, was it a men's or women's or together bathroom?
So I'll be honest. From the moment we met, it was like amazing. Like our chemistry, we couldn't keep our hands. We've been together almost 14 years, and we dated all through our 20s, and I'm 37 now, and we met very young, and we just couldn't keep our hands off each other. And we were on vacation, and we were coming home. We were in the airport, and there was one of those family bathrooms, and we were like, "Hey, let's whatever."
Involved, yeah.
And I'll be honest, like we're married, and the stigma with marriage is sex kind of fizzles, and it's not as often as it was or whatever. But when it is, it's just as amazing as when it always was. It's even better now because we kind of know what each other like, and there's no BS. It's like I don't like feet, so stay away from my feet type of thing. Yeah. I mean, like I know where we're at. Like
I love it. Thank you, Alex. Wildest dating, make out, sex, and or online dating story.
Okay, I thought about this. I have many make out stories. For the one that I'm like confident with that. I don't know, like anybody. But anyways, I was at a bar with my friend, and I was a bit tipsy, and I was like flirting with this man, and yeah, we were both drunk, and then we started kissing. And like whenever I drink, I'm very like in charge, like do what I say, like And so I told him to kneel in front of me so that we were like more the same height, so it could be like sexier. And
oh my God, I'm sure he loved that. I'm sure just thinking of some clients I have. Yes. Anyway, go ahead.
He was like really in front of me. I'm like, yes, this is hot. And we were like sloppy making out in this bar. And I am like 100% positive there were like 3 people like videoing it because like, when do you see that type of thing? You know what I mean?
Love it. I hope it went viral. Fabulous.
Oh my God, I hope not.
Julian and Sky.
Oh boy. We have a few. We had to narrow it down for this, but
Yeah, we have a lot. And this one will be a little maybe niche, a little different, but I feel like I want to share it because in private, I've talked to a lot of other disabled people who deal with this as well. So in the past, I've had a lot of, I have incontinence issues just in general from my disabilities. And previously during sex, that used to really embarrass me. And I would like stop all activity and want to hide and just like cry and just go away forever. And we were talking about our relationship evolving. So we were at a hotel in New York City because I had some modeling jobs and we were having sex and that happened and I felt really embarrassed, but we were having like such a good experience that it was the first time ever that we both ignored it and just kind of kept going with our activity. And it was like a little weird to me at first, but I was like, wow, this is actually really empowering. And I don't know, it made me feel not embarrassed because it's not something I can help anyways. And I was kind of just like, wow, I can keep going and it doesn't have to be this way. And, you know.
It was really fun until I had to go downstairs and ask for new sheets.
I mean, yeah, but still.
Yes, I would say that was some night. Fantastic. Chris.
Come on, Chris.
You can do it. It can be a makeout or
where do I start? A lot of my stories are not the most PG, but I'm gonna make it PG. I get a lot of weird requests on social media for like weird stuff, and there's a whole class of people, devotees, that like amputees and want weird stuff. Like I've had tons of people, not tons, but a few specific requests like, "Hey, choke me with your arm," like lots of prosthetic stuff. But I have one story that makes me laugh, and as I was listening to your stories, I'm thinking about it, and I'm dying laughing, and it's so funny to me, and I hope it's as funny to you. So kink is like, I'm very like open with the people, that know of me, and this girl is amazing, and we're, toy play, stuff like that, and she still had the toy in, and she walked to the bathroom, and I made her laugh, and it shot out and hit the floor so fucking hard. I laughed so hard. She laughed so hard. The level of laughter, I'm sure the downstairs neighbor was just like, what? Something hit the house. It was the funniest, but what's so nice about it is that like I had the comfort of being able to laugh about it, being comfortable enough to like be open about that kind of stuff. So like that, it was fucking hilarious. And like I still like, I'm trying not to like lose my shit and laugh because I'll just laugh forever.
I want to know what you said that made that thing shoot out of her.
Exactly.
I can't remember, but it was a rocket. It was hilarious. And the fact that like you could just laugh about it, it was just that. It was a very funny moment. It's definitely something I will never forget.
I love it. I love it. Well, shout out to her because that's a moment that doesn't seem like it's ever going to go away. So
It will not.
to whoever that was. Okay, so guys, we have quite a few questions. So I'm just going to dive in. There's a couple that are specific to panelists, and there are some that are open to anybody. So feel free to just jump in. The first one is, what are good resources for people with disabilities and their partners who want to navigate sex? Are there any outlets to turn to? If you know any, or Danielle, if you can reference any.
Yeah. So there's so Mount Sinai has so there's not many. I don't know if like huge numbers here, but I know Mount Sinai has a sex clinic for people with spinal cord injury. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, aside from me being a resource, like I feel like I'm definitely a resource on navigating sex. That's the only like huge place that I know of that really, I mean, they had a guy there that he has his own sex toy shop, and he designs specifically, like one of his areas is specific toward people with disabilities. So he brings stuff to this seminar Like one, he brought like a sex swing and different things. So I like how they do it there at Mount Sinai. It's very real and a lot of good takeaways.
And we have people actually tuning in from around the world. So I just want to be specific. That's Mount Sinai in New York City.
Right.
Okay. Wonderful. Great. And please, everybody, you can reach out to us via email at gamutmanagement.com to get connected to Danielle or anybody else on the panel for more information. This question is specific for Julian and Sky.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, please.
Okay, so since you reminded me that it is a universal audience, so there is a group that in Australia, I believe, that they're called Scarlet Road. I mean, the documentary is called Scarlet Road, and that they made about their sex working group, and they specifically work with clients with disabilities. So they branched off. I think sex working is legal there. So they noticed that, oh, wow, we have a niche. Like we have a large group of clients who are interested in this topic, exactly what the question says from our viewer. So they have a whole, that's exactly what they do. So you guys can Google that. The documentary is excellent, Scarlet Road. And I forget exactly what the group is called. But you'll see it in the documentary. So I'm not sure, that was a few years ago. I'm not sure with COVID, but it's worth looking at it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So this next question is for Julian and Sky, and I think we actually addressed this already, but I'm going to add a little to the question because I'm curious about it as well. The question is, can you talk about the caretaking aspect that you briefly discussed on your IG story? But now I'm going to add on to that in that, is it difficult sometimes to separate the two, or do they just meld together as a caretaker and a partner?
I'll let you answer this.
Yeah, well, before we get into that, I also wanted to talk about other resources for disability and sex related
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, I know that there are a lot of Instagrams that are dedicated to like sex and disability or disability, queer identity, sex related stuff. And one that comes to mind, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of him, Drew Gerza. He has cerebral palsy and uses the power chair and talks a lot about just like incorporating mobility devices into sex and embracing his disabled identity in the bedroom. And he also, I'm not sure where they are in the process of releasing these toys, but he's working with a brand called Handy, and they are developing sex toys specifically for disabled people.
And he also has a podcast.
I think he has a few, but his main one is Disability After Dark, which talks about sex and disability.
And he brings like disabled porn stars on there,
yeah,
regular disabled people, all kinds of stuff.
I mean, who knew? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, I know we
Her partner separation. That's the question.
Yeah.
Well, we don't necessarily consider them separate because they are occurring all of the time. Like it's hard to, because I require care like 24 hours a day pretty much. So it's always happening. I think in an emotional sense, we sometimes, I guess, separate, like we have to have our own time apart, of course, or talk about our needs, even when I still am needing something. So that gets a little complicated sometimes. But
but especially when it comes to sex, they sort of meld together oftentimes because I'll just say I'm a giver in the bedroom, and so a lot of the time being able to help him with certain things can almost be like a type of foreplay into getting ready to like use each other.
Yeah, and it evolves, like as in if I need help moving in a different position, then like Sky's gonna help me do that. Like she's still helping me even in those situations. Kind of like the question you asked Alex about what she would require, like in a sexual setting. Like Sky is the one that has to help with all of that stuff. And we make it an intimate thing because that's all you can do.
I love that. And actually, this will go to both you guys and Kristina and Blas. Do you consider, like, I know there's the phrase interable couples. Do you consider yourselves that? What is your feeling on that vernacular?
I mean, I remember initially, right before the first time we were going to have sex after my accident, I remember I got dressed in lingerie and I actually called my friend over because I was embarrassed to like snap myself up in the back because I couldn't. And after that, my friend ended up she couldn't come over. But then after I was like, well, we can make it an intimate thing. So if I need help with something, he does help me, whether it's lingerie or dressing up or being creative, he does help, and we just make it like a sexy thing.
I mean, I don't know. I don't really like that. Like, I think we're just a couple. Like, we're not able or disabled, or we're just two people. I mean, not to sound cliche, but we're just two people that love each other. Mm. And that's what makes the sex so great, is that we generally, I want to make her feel good, and she wants to make me feel good because we love each other. And I think that is a big, if I were single today, I would probably never have sex. I think there's so much pressure from society and social media and to be perfect. I applaud the youth and everybody navigating, Chris, especially you, someone who's putting himself out there in the public eye. I mean, it's just kind of hard to navigate and to just start being labeled. So I don't know. I think we're just two people.
I think if I wasn't married at the time and was still single, I think I would have a lot of reservations with people in general. With, I've gotten, questions asked and things like that. Some creepy people requests and things like that, even though I'm married. So I definitely know it's out there. So I definitely would be hesitant in that aspect. But my only advice to people would be, be sexy, get lingerie, make yourself feel good in the bedroom, which is what I do, and it works.
Oh, it works.
Perfect. Actually, that goes to the next question, which is directed to Chris. What makes you feel sexy and or confident in bed?
I think being comfortable with the other person is huge. A lot of it now is my ability to communicate my needs. If I don't feel like I can communicate my needs, whether that's on me or on them, that I'll never feel like optimally comfortable. Comfort is huge. In my opinion, comfort is huge for any sort of level of true like intimacy, whether it's physicality or not. So if you're not comfortable, you're not able to focus fully. You're not able to be pleasured or pleasure someone fully because your mind is somewhere else. You're not present, So I guess comfort would be what makes me feel sexiest.
I love it. Okay. Actually, the next question's for me, and I think it's a very important one. And it is about being a parent of a child with a disability. What fears do you have for him, and what do you hope for his future partners? Thank you, whoever asked that question, because it is an absolute fear. As the parents, Oliver is 16 right now, so he is knee-deep in teenage lunacy, and just even discovering who he is and dealing with a disability that's degenerative, and his body is, not performing the way that it used to in general. So first of all, I'm incredibly grateful for all of you, because this is recorded, and if you don't think I'm going to be playing it back for him when it's an appropriate time, and to have resources like Danielle. But I would say my hope, as well as I suppose my fear, is that I just want somebody to love him for who he is, and for what he can and cannot do, and just be able to be with him on this journey when it gets even harder than it is right now. And I think in the world that he's going to grow up in, thanks to all of you, I feel very confident that he will find that love and find a partner that is going to embrace him for who he is. And I'm not to cry right now. It was a little emotional. Sorry, everybody. Anyway, I can't believe it, but we have run out of time. But let's just do a quick roundtable to leave with one amazing pearl. Let's give everybody a Valentine's gift of something that you want to say about this topic and what you want to express to anyone listening. So, Julian and Sky, let's start with you. One just last little nugget.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope like no matter whether you're disabled or not disabled, that you feel comfortable talking about sex and do it, because it has to be done. And we definitely are way too stigmatized all across the board with it. So just do it, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say all of that, and also go buy some sex toys.
Yeah, that too.
That's a good nugget. Thank you. Alex.
Sorry, I was muted. Julian, I'm going to take that advice for myself. Thank you very much. I just want to say that disabled bodies are sexy, and just keep trying to put yourself out there. I'm talking to myself right now. Keep trying to put yourself out there. And what I tell a lot of people is that when you have confidence and you really show people how confident you are within yourself, it's reciprocated back to you. And that has done wonders for me in my self-love journey and like getting into relationships. So just, yes, be empowered, bad bitch.
Yeah.
Yes. Chris.
Different bodies, different desires, different methods. Differences can be sexy, or differences can be like painful. You know, we talk about communication, but self-communication is huge. You have to communicate with yourself what you're comfortable with. You have to decide what you actually like, and you can go against the grain. You don't have to fall in line of society and what they deem is okay or not okay. And I will follow with, I believe it was Sky, please go to the damn sex store and go past the furry handcuffs and look at what really is there. Because I promise you, there is so much more. Explore within yourself, mentally, physically, emotionally, everything. And sex is so much deeper than just an orgasm, and allow yourself to experience that.
Fantastic. You definitely need to add this to the resume, Chris. I think you're a natural here. Kristina and Blas.
Well, just, once I did start the self-love journey and really feel confident in myself, I felt like my life changed in all my relationships, including my relationship with myself, with my husband, with my family, with my friends. So I think it's all about self-love, and just like in any marriage, to keep it creative and keep it spicy.
I'm going to repeat what everybody said. Just kind of love yourself, and if the partner or somebody's going to come along that's going to love you for you, and if they don't, well, just you don't need them in your lives. Just keep pushing and communicate. Don't be embarrassed of what you like, what you don't like. Or just because you're in a wheelchair doesn't mean you're not sexual. I mean, everybody has feelings, and everybody feels good when they're being loved and touched and caressed. And just remember, we all have feelings, and kind of treat each other with respect, and find someone that loves you for you.
Beautiful. And last but certainly not least, let's go, Danielle. Leave us with a zinger.
So 3 quick things. So number 1, I love how kink was talked about tonight a lot. I didn't get to really talk about that much, but it's definitely a trend that I see in sessions too. So I like how we openly talked about it, because it's kind of a big thing that people don't talk about. Number 2, Mindy, there's a ton of questions. You have to have like a sequel. There's so many good ones. I tried to about adaptive lingerie, clothing, like there's too many. So, and then 3rd, so my piece of advice is that I don't care how severe your disability is, what it is, sex, romance, and dating and marriage and relationships are possible. Like, period, full stop. And people say, how do you know? Are you sure? And I know because I've seen it a million times. So get out there.
I love it. I am so grateful. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. It was incredibly insightful. And as Danielle said, we have tons more questions. So maybe we do need to do a part two. Danielle, thank you so much for your sage advice and wisdom. And certainly everybody watching, please feel free to email us at info@gamutmanagement.com, and we can certainly help answer or direct you to the panelists to find out more information, and much more to come. But I am so grateful to all of you, and I wish you a very happy Valentine's Day.
Thanks, Mindy. Bye, guys.
Yes.
Thank you.